All right. Let's see if we can get some reasonable mic levels going. Never ever tried to set up before, so see. Probably shouldn't be clipping. It's probably a bad idea. All right, oh, that's a bit much maybe. Yep, that's a bit much. What should we do? Put volume full, tweak the mic. I've got this tiny little set here, but I'm not sure. All right, let's see how that goes. Ooh, it's echoey in here. All right, well, let's give this a go. Let's see what kind of thing this is. I've never live streamed programming before, a little bit of gaming in the past, but that's about it. And I have all of this gear here and that I used to use for making music with, but don't really do that much more anymore. And I recently moved into this tiny little private office, so I can actually talk without instantly annoying everyone, although we'll see how well that goes in total, because as you can see, it's just glass, so it probably won't hold back that much. And as another reason why I finally wanted to do this is because I want to make sure I keep working on open source a bit more. I think I'm still clipping a little bit. I want to keep working on open source stuff, and I thought this would be a good way to motivate myself a little bit. And plus I kind of think it's an interesting thing to do, to start a whole new project live and actually see if it's gonna go anywhere. So actually before I get started, I'm gonna share this link in some other place that I think people will think is interesting. Because the thing I'm going to work on is a Kafka related thing, and so posting it in the Kafka channels is maybe not a bad idea. Hi there, I'm trying something. All right, so I'm gonna let people give 1 or 2 more minutes to either leave and leave me completely without anyone to talk to, or to join, and then I think I'm gonna get going. It does say there are 3 people watching, so at least thanks guys, of 1 bot, which I guess is, a thing. All right. Let's see if I can get my editor on this screen, because that would probably be a good start. As you can see, I've also never really worked with OBS before. It seems straightforward enough, but if stuff goes haywire, you know why that is. There we go. Okay, so that's way too small. Nobody will ever be able to read that. How about that? That's probably better. I think most people should be able to read this, unless you're looking on the smallest of mobile phones. But then, what are you watching a programming stream for? Unless you just like the sound of my voice, but that would be a bit creepy. Although, that's why I watch movies with George Clooney in it, so I guess that's legit. All right, well, at the very least, I'm recording this so that people can look at it later. And so even if there's no one now, maybe someone will see it in the past, or it'll just be a funny thing for me to look back at later as well. So I do have my webcam on this side, and I'll be programming towards that side because that's where my main monitor is. And if that's annoying, then I mean, I guess have it be annoying, or there's not much I can do about it now. All right, so what do we have here? So I created the repo, I created a package, and I created a README. And I seriously just wrote this up 2 minutes ago because I thought live streaming something, because I needed to publish something on NPM, because I was like live streaming something with the name of my package without actually owning that package name or publishing to that package name is disaster. Is people going to hijack it? Or maybe not, because nobody's actually watching this. But even so, it's I want to start working on a stream processing library for Node, and in particular a stream processing library for to do stream processing with Kafka. So and for those who don't know what Kafka is, there is this one really great talk from Martin Klapman called "Turning the Database Inside Out." See, even if you look for it, it's quite there. Which is a little bit older now. I think it's from 2015, but it's still a really great way to explain what stream processing is. Although, showing this, I'm going to just put it in the chat. And otherwise people can just search for it themselves, because I guess this is video and you can see what I'm doing. But the idea is that you use event sourcing as the source of all of your application state, which is very, very vague if you've never tried anything. So I think instead of trying to explain exactly what stream processing is, I'm just going to assume that there's some people watching who know what Kafka is or know what stream processing is, and if not, people will ask me a question, and otherwise this might be a very boring stream. Anyway, basically what I'm going to implement is something that I've been working on. Maybe switch to talking thing. What I'm going to be implementing is something that I've been working on for like at least 18 months as part of a customer project, which I work for most of the time. And this customer project has this old legacy surface. So I think it's still written in, I think some of it is in .NET now, but some is still in Visual Basic 6, which is, pretty old. And we're slowly, bit by bit, moving things to new systems. But at the same time, we don't want to completely just build a new system that has every single new feature in it and then move everyone over all at once, because that's revolution instead of evolution. And you definitely want to work in an evolutionary way. So where we slowly, bit by bit, basically hoist features into new products, even add new features as well, so existing features, old features, and slowly move customers over to the new thing, let them use the old software for the things that the new software can't do, especially because maybe we don't want the new software to do that. But anyway, the problem that this creates is that we have this super old system, and that's still the base for a lot of what people do. It's a logistics, it's a logistics software. So a lot of the planning happens in there, and taking orders and that sort of stuff. And so whatever happens in that super old app needs to be reflected in new software. Like that needs to be in sync with each other. And the thing is, we have a very, very small developer team where basically 2 guys and actually a third guy who used to work for our customer itself. So our customer is actually someone who sells this kind of software. We're sort of helping their development team get out of that old thing. So somebody from the old developer team came into our team, but so it's sort of 3 people now. Although like one person is mostly busy keeping the old systems alive in the first place. So basically we need to make something work that is very reliable, because I only like, I don't like to work crazy hours. I like to be able to have time for these kind of things. I don't want to go to bed with a pager, those kind of things. So rather than putting lots of time and lots of resources into operations, we rather take it slower and write software that is basically write distributed systems that are fault tolerant enough to for us to basically just run them and monitor them a bit, but not really too much. Like, we want to write software, create software. We don't want to operate software. Like, I know that's what some people want to do, but to me, operating software is that's not my hobby. That's something I sometimes have to do, but rather not do. And so why we're using Kafka is because Kafka is the first technology that I've seen in a very long time that allows us to do that, to allow us to write this really fault-tolerant and robust integration between this legacy system and this new system, or any system in between, really. So it's basically like an event log. So some people will know like RabbitMQ or one of those cloud-specific message providers. So it's sort of messaging, but you basically get these logs of events that you can persist in. And anyway, the thing that's interesting for us at the moment is that it gives us basically a way to implement replication streams. And that's what we need, right? Because we need to get that data from the old place to the new place. We need to be able to, we don't want to do that per request, because then you get massive like request overheads. We don't want to do that in batch. So we don't want to do it like that stuff happens in the background. No, we want, or like once every night or once every week, where systems go down for maintenance, even though it's 2019 and systems go down for maintenance, but sure. Or like you make a change in the booking software, like in the logistics, about where a certain piece of equipment has to go, and you need to make it before tonight. Otherwise, it won't be affected until 2 days later, and it will be 3 days later, and that's all bollocks. Like, we don't want any of that. We want stuff to be as real time as possible. And the other thing is, because we're so small, we really want to evolve our software. And that's one thing that Kafka allows us to do, is that because it persists all the messages that go through it, and at any point you can go back to the beginning of the queue of messages or the log of messages and read through all of them from the beginning. And so as long as that is your state of truth, is your origin of truth, your state of truth, I don't know. As long as that's the thing that you're working from and everything else is derived from that, if there's a bug in your system, you can theoretically, and we've done it a couple of times now, it's not as smooth yet, but that's what this library is going to be for. You can move from, you can basically read from all the way to the beginning, back to the end, process them all again, like process every single event again, and hopefully this time without the bug in your system, and then hopefully it will do the right thing. So it's this really, really nice system that should be pretty fault tolerant anyway. And if we basically mess up our own code or our own deployments, it's pretty tricky to really lose data out of that system and to not be able to reprocess it all. Okay. So that's the idea, sort of. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to make 1,000 more videos, or I could make 100 more videos. Like, there's lots of resources online for people who are really, really keen to learn more and just want to leave this video or stream or however you're watching this. Go look at Confluent. Look, this is where I can realize that you can watch my screen. So I can go. No, programming. There we go. Confluent.io. They are the people who maintain the Kafka project, because Kafka is open source. People might ask, why aren't you not using Kinesis or something like that? Because we want something open source. These guys, these folks have a lot of resources about what Kafka is, how to use it, how to make event-driven systems, all that sort of stuff. But the thing I'm interested in is not using, is bringing Kafka to Node. And Kafka sort of is already at Node in Node.js, because there are some libraries for it. But those are clients. Actually, there are multiple clients. We've moved through a couple of them, but there's one client that we've adopted called Kafka.js, which is only a couple of months ago. Probably make this bigger too, shouldn't I? I should really get into the habit of thinking of what people are actually looking at. So the thing that we're using and that I'm going to base this library on is called Kafka.js. But anyway, these are clients for Kafka. So they're clients for talking to Kafka. And Kafka itself is basically just these logs of messages that you can either write to, so produce, or read from, which is called consuming. And it allows you to do so in a group. You can consume in a group, which is extremely useful, which means that you can have multiple consumers read the same log and have it split the work between them, which is extremely useful. Because that's how you scale these kind of systems. But it doesn't, apart from that, there isn't really anything to help you get going. Like there is no way that you can define a task or like it's fairly low level, that's to say. And so what I want to be writing here is something that exists in the normal Java client, not Kafka.js, it's Kafka Streams. So Kafka Streams is this layer on top of Kafka that's actually part of the actual project, like of the official project. And I would encourage people to go watch this video, but it basically puts this entire layer on top, which allows you to think about no longer about Kafka internals, but about streams. So a stream of events, like there is multiple events coming in, and we might like page clicks, and we might want to join that with user accounts or something. And as long as we have a key that we can join these two event streams on, we should be able to create a stream out of that again. And there is this, it has this really rich API where you basically like it's used by all these big companies and blah blah blah, like interesting, cool. But it has this extremely actually, here's a bit of API, Streams Builder. Although, I mean, honestly, one of the reasons why I want to write it in Node, because I don't think Java is particularly nice to read, but at the same time, you can sort of see what it is. Like it sort of brings these functional programming methods to these abstract ideas of streams. So here they're taking a text lines, basically a stream of text lines, and they are they're flat mapping it, and they're grouping it by word in order to get a word count. And basically every single time a new message comes in, it updates the word count, and then it writes that to another topic that then somebody else who's interested in the word topics can consume. So Node does not have anything like this, and actually doing so is pretty tricky. Like it is, I think there is actually an article at some point by, I think it's Jay Krebs. There is actually like, there is this post from a while ago where Jay Krebs does this really interesting, basically saying, you can use Kafka Streams, or you can do something manually, but doing it manually is really tricky. Well, we've tried in the last 18 months, and yes, it is very tricky. It's not an easy thing to do. But over the last 18 months, we've been slowly building this framework, which is a framework internal to the client. So I can't just open source that. But it wouldn't actually be to any use to anyone because it is bloated with all of this very client-specific stuff. Like it's this, it's like it would, it would not make anyone's lives easier. However, what we can do is I can take what I've learned, because you work on something and you learn, you get to know how systems work. I can take what I've learned and write this new thing from scratch, which is basically the lowest, basically stream processing for Node. And my first idea of doing that is going with the first step of what Kafka Streams is, if we have it here. So if Kafka Streams comes with this entire nice stream DSL and really nice, but actually the thing lying below it is the Kafka Processor API. And which is like this API where how you define a stream processor and all the basics that this stream processor has. We haven't really been looking at that while we made our own version. But at the same time, what we've built actually, because I've read a lot about these kind of systems, implement all these different ideas, is basically the stream. Clipping. It's basically the stream processing API. And so that might still sound a little bit vague. Maybe people who've looked into Kafka Streams will understand. I just can't explain it all now. So I think I'm just going to get going. And I think I'm going to get going by writing down a couple of goals that where I want this project to go, so I can actually work through it, because I don't really feel like using Trello for something like this. So I'm just going to get started. So aims, etc. I don't know what to call this, but I do know I can use this syntax. So I want the stream processor API. And I'll probably break this up into more into smaller units later, because I just you don't know what the concrete steps are until you try something of it. Tech task orchestration. So I want to be able to write multiple tasks, and I want to be able to and run those all as the same worker. Simple. Worker or app. So if you think, why does he make such a weird noise? Like I've bought two of these before, and there's this corner missing, which is the tilde key. So I just use my finger and make some contact with my skin, and it seems to work, because I'm sick of buying new ones. So especially because one key, and I actually ordered a new key for it. Anyway, big story. Not a lot of things. Simple worker app. I want extremely low dependencies. Very, very few dependencies. Kafka.js. Long. Oh, yeah, and task orchestration, simple worker to run multiple tasks in a single task construct to describe processor topologies. I think that's a name that used in the Java thing, topologies, which I guess is accurate. I don't know. I think they actually use a different thing for a task. Idiomatic. node, no straight up copy of this is a big one too. I want idiomatic node, no straight up copy of the Java processor API because, you know, we're writing in Node, we're not writing in Java. I don't want crazy classes and all those kind of things. I think this is sort of the base thing. Initial goals. Because they're sort of initial, okay. Very error handling. Okay, so this obviously is super vague, but I already have an idea, obviously, of what I'm going to make because I'm going to pull this out of my brain. So instead of spending a whole lot more time writing this, oh, the other thing is I'm going to write this in, this thing that I've set up is TypeScript. I haven't done, this is the amount of TypeScript I've done so far in my life, which is it's actually ES6 modules I'm doing for the first time. Always just used Common.js, so haven't used ES6 yet, so that might be funny or not. Either way, it'll be entertaining. Yeah, so I've really wanted to get into TypeScript, especially for I have a couple of other libraries that I've thought about maybe converting into TypeScript, but then I'm just using my time converting something that already exists. And so instead of doing that, I want to use it here with this new project, just because I think it might be for something well defined like I have in mind. It might be a useful thing to have static types, and basically I just want to try it. You know, you don't know if something's good or bad. There's a lot of hype around it. I've been looking at Rust as well, so it would be good for me to get used to some more static typing before I dive into that, because apparently that's strict typing, and at least TypeScript is gradual typing. So I'll basically, most of the code you'll see me write in the beginning is probably just JavaScript. It's not TypeScript, but TypeScript is supposed to be a superset of JavaScript. So every valid JavaScript is TypeScript. And then as soon as I sort of figure out how stuff needs to work, what useful types are, I will start introducing types. But as long as I don't really know, then I'm just not going to really bother, because, you know, it's time wasted. I've learned over the last couple of years that no abstraction is better than the wrong abstraction, because it's a whole lot easier to apply the right abstraction to something that you like it's a lot easier to abstract new code that with the right abstraction than having to undo the wrong abstraction and then having to apply a new abstraction. Undoing abstractions is a pain in the... Exactly. All right, I'm just going to start writing something because I've been babbling for about half an hour now. Yep, easy. Cool. So, well, the core unit of this whole thing is going to be what I call, is going to be a task. Ooh, it's really weird how part of this interface actually grows and how part of it stays small with... Okay. And for who's wondering, I use Sublime. Oh wait, there's one more thing that I want to add. 100% test coverage. When I mean 100%, I mean 100%. And when you see what I have used as a testing harness, it's called TAP or Tape Node by Isaac Schluter. Every single time we run tests, we'll get a coverage report. And I found in the little bits of pieces where I've done 100% test coverage, I found it extremely useful in finding bugs for which I would otherwise have to write extremely complicated tests. So that's a goal I have, and I think, you know, well tested is a bit of a weird thing. I'm just gonna say 100% test coverage. Whatever we write needs to be hit by code somehow, and yeah, that's it really. Okay, so that's the sound I should make, because apparently that made me clip. I'm gonna have some tea now and spoil where my co-working space is. For the people who've been there will probably recognize the mug, and otherwise for everyone else it's a bit of a puzzle. Is anyone actually still listening to any of this? Ooh, there are. Hello people, 9 people. Hey, yeah, Tommy here, cool idea, skip along, go directly to big int. Okay, so apparently I need to keep my chat more readily available, so I can, Tommy, who is from the Kafka.js project, who the maintainers are one of the big reasons why we moved to it. Does anyone know if I can make this thing make a sound, if any of this chat goes? Chat, show timestamp. None of it. Anyway, okay, let's get going with this so we can at least do something today, because I don't have forever. See, now I'm instantly gonna think, do I write a class or not? Let's just write a class. Okay, class, task, export, default. Does that work like that? We're going to find out. So a task is going to be basically the point of orchestration for a lot of these kind of things. And I'm gonna have to at least very slightly look at what we've done before. Oh. So that I at least have something to jog my memory of what we're building, because that's started from scratch. So this is actually, I'm also a designer. For a lot of the work that I do the interface design. I have absolute empty canvas. I have a problem with empty canvases. Like, I need to just do something, and as soon as there's something there, then okay, I'll be okay. But all right, okay. So task. I'm gonna be able to take a task and then. I'm totally going off the fact that TypeScript is supposed to be JavaScript, so I'm just going to write some JavaScript now and hopefully have that work constructors. That's a good idea. Actually, it's not what I want to do, is it? Create task. I can't remember what kind of arguments we'll give it, but it'll return a new task. Is that not allowed? Oh wait, that's not allowed. Here we go. So let's get the, I'm gonna do something just to make this streaming a little bit easier. Oh, no, don't know what I'm opening now. iTerm, yes please. So I must be, I listened to the Accidental Tech podcast. I know that a certain John Syracuse will hate me for, I mean, he doesn't know me, but won't like me using full screen on this, but it's what we're going to do, because it allows me to have this stuff next to each other. So at the moment, if I run npm test, it uses tap, and it demands 100% test coverage, and it's like, yay, it all passes because nothing happens, because it says app, and the app is true. Cool. Now, let's see if we can make a task, TS, and then, I forget, I seriously have I've never used tap either, so import tab from tab test. I think this is it. Just gonna roll with it and see where we go wrong. Tab tests task. I have used tape before in the past, which is supposedly supposed to have a similar thing, a similar API. There we go. That's the word, API. Okay, T. And you think we need to pass T to this, and then T test. Let's make this one thing. T test can be constructed. No, not require. Import create task from like that. Yeah, because we don't want to run the compiled, because tab has built-in compilation for TypeScript, as far as I understand. So I mean, again, we're going to find out if it's not true, and then we'll just deal with it and spend an entire day doing nothing, because dealing with tools that we don't know. Task is create task. And then I need to look at the assert library for this. Tab? Notes tab? Note tab. What's the assert library for this thing? T, okay, that does look a bit like tab actually, which makes sense because it's like tape, but I guess they're both doing tab, so they would be they'd be using tab keywords, I think. Task. Oh wait, I can do the not throw thing, right? Do not throw promises. Do not throw. Should probably actually do this. Shouldn't do this off camera, should I? And does not reject, something like that. Rejected promise. To verify as rejected, you can use t-reject. But it will throw, because we're not doing anything with promises. I'm already in promises world. I've been doing a lot with promises lately. T does not throw. I'm just going to see if this works. Does not throw, and probably takes a function, because that's how throwing works. That's the most basic thing. Okay, test. I'm pretty sure I can do this. Watch me. Wow, instantly massive failure. Sweet. Test can be constructed. What am I reading? Test unfinished. Do we have to plan stuff? Is that what we do? I'm sorry for everyone who just came in here to actually do something about specifically to Kafka, because obviously that's not what it's going to be. Obviously, we're not going to get into that until week 17. I guess get started. Coverage using tab with subtests. T-test, test pawn. T-test method. Sweet. Tab test. Test does not end. You know what? We'll just do so in tape you used to be able to do this. You said T plan. Oh crap. I need to do another T in here too. T plan 1, and then as soon as so basically you're saying we're assuming one assertion, and so no. Test task. Test unfinished. Do we also need to? How do I tell a thing to be finished? Do I just make this like asynchronous thing or something? I guess that did it. I guess I could have planned stuff there too, but or I could have probably used tpass. I'm gonna use tpass instead, just to know how this thing works. Test unfinished. Apparently not. Okay, whatever. We'll just we'll do the planning thing, and we could just make everything an asynchronous test. Oh my god! Please bear with me while I learn new software, and I'm no good to you. Okay, well that worked. I'm just gonna make asynchronous tests, and if that's a bad idea, I guess we'll figure that out somehow. Cool, it does not throw. Can let me actually see if it does throw, just to make sure that this thing is actually working, because obviously that's the problem when stuff just throw, new error, thrown, yay. Expected to not throw, and it did throw, sweet. Okay, so we're running some code here. Okay, so a task will keep track of sources and will... I can't remember if we want to accept anything configurator. Wait, yeah, I'm just gonna go. I used to use this, but I can't remember if this is something that I was doing with Babel or if this is actually JavaScript or TypeScript we can use. Is this something we can use? Okay. I guess that makes sense. Now, is this how we do the TypeScripting? I guess so. Cool. That now returns a task, and that's useful somehow. So back to the task source sources. So we'll have a couple of methods: source, process, and that's where we will accept a processor. Oh no, like we'll accept a source, and then we'll set up a function to set up the processor. And here we'll accept a topic name, because a topic is the name of it's the name of a topic, it's the name of the log, the thing you want to process. So it could be clicks, could be views, could be all kinds of things. So let's see if we can have okay, so we want to be able to do that. She should return the source. So probably need a source type. We want to be able to start a task. We want to be able to stop a task. We want to have events. Okay, I need the constructor on, don't I? Yeah, okay. Import event emitter is require, see, there we go, from events. Compiler problems, sweet. Events, property events does not exist on type. Excuse me, I'm pretty sure this is legal JavaScript, so why wouldn't it be legal? Why would it not be legal TypeScript? Because I've done something, set something in the config. Surely, yeah, let me just very quickly see if we have something here. Oh wait, it's not gonna compile, is it? So it's not even gonna run. That's how that works, Yep. Okay. So I'm gonna actually have to read this. Property events does not exist on type task. Okay, so how do we define a TypeScript lang? How do we define a TypeScript lang class? Classes, sweet. Greeting, string, wow, events, event emitter. Like that? Yeah, okay, cool. Learned something today. Sources, can we just say sources array then? Oh, but then it wants to know what kind of array, doesn't it? Well, it's just gonna be an array. Good luck with that for now. And already our, guess not. What a lovely stream. We should call this a fails a TypeScript thing. That's what you just get for just trying something and not even really reading the documentation. Just like, no, I'm gonna go give this a try. How hard could it be? Well, like that. I mean, I have read through a little bit of documentation last night when I was watching TV. So I guess that's the thing. Where do we actually get the thing here? Unable to compile TypeScript. Identifier expected. Wait, do I need to go comma-y thing? Oh. This is not because I actually need any of these, do we? Oh, no. It's because you leave code out there that's not code. Error does not reach threshold. No, that's right. It does not. Okay. It'll be fine. So sources, that is basically a list of topics that we want to track, because maybe I should start with an example thing. Can register a source. Create a source. Source is there like a before thing here? I'll just do this for now, but we'll have to clean this up later. Create task, and then we can say source is task source, and we expect that not to throw. I mean, I guess I'm running a task. Yeah, no. Gonna do a source, and for the source, we'll want to. How should we? I think I'm gonna write my first source task. So actually, I'm already getting code coverage issues, so I'm gonna actually, I mean, that's fine. I was like, I'm gonna remove all these methods, so then now my tasks, yes, I am going to do that. Because what if I make a bug if I don't test something about source? I do want to do that, so, okay, source is, we're basically gonna keep a list of sources. So we want to try and find an existing source. Existing source is this sources, and probably this is an interface maybe, or type maybe. Uh-oh. To the documentation. How do I just say this has that shape. I think that's an interface, right? Let's just start with the interface. Oh wait, let's just actually type source. Can we export that? Why am I asking even? See, I actually want to go and try that, but is this intended to be an open source library, or am I going to have to OCR the screen or republish on a different name? I don't know how long this question has been there because I am a noob at streaming, but it is definitely going to be an open source library. Yes, I think actually, let me go to where it is at the moment, it's already here. And it's not on GitHub yet because there's too little to be on GitHub and I sort of rushed doing this. But it will definitely be open source. That's the entire point of this. Like, I definitely don't want to be the only one to be working on this. The entire reason for us to open source it is because we have been working on something like this, and it is a lot. It takes a lot to maintain. It's a lot of work to put it all together. We get lots of questions in different places. Also in the Kafka.js community, every now and then, people wanting to do the similar things that this library will help them do. So yes, I hope for it to be open source and for everybody to start contributing to it, and all the open source magic, really. Even though none of that stuff is generally true. But the Kafka.js project is really nice so far, so hopefully it can be something like that. For people looking for the name, Vrolijk, it's just a bastardization of the word Vrolijk. Because the architecture that I'm going to use is sort of for the library itself, is because it's a little bit like Happy. I don't know if everyone used Happy before, but I've used them before, and at the very least, you can say that the way that this thing is like modularizes certain things is really, really interesting. So it's sort of, it's about me being happy. So I guess that's what the name is from. You can tell a lot of thought has went into this. So if we can say source, can we say that? Failed. Unable to compile. You know what, I'm not going to bother with this for now. Source, and it's going to have topic name, string, and it will have a... See, sometimes you just need color coding in order to tell you that something's right or wrong. Topic name, and it's going to have the processors that we so far have registered for it. Because basically what we want to do, I'm just going to make like a little example, aren't I? It's probably the right thing to do. Yes, I will make an example. I'm like, that should probably be a test if it's an example, because code that never runs dies and is full of bugs. But introduction, let's just write an introduction example in TypeScript, sure. We're gonna take import task from, no. Source task, sweet. And then I'm gonna make a task. Task is task. So this is what I want this to look like. Is a create, oh wait. It's not actually what it's going to be, but task, and I want to say sort of like this. I want to say page views is task source page views, or however, so that's the name of the topic. And I want to say, I should probably use something that I actually know. Let's say location events. Logistics companies have, you would not be very surprised, have a lot of location events, because that's the main type of thing they get. Location events, cool. And I want to process that somehow, and that's going to work like this. It's going to say task, process, location events, and it's going to retrieve an assignment, and then it's going to return the process, I think. Anyway, so any assignment setup work called when consumer receives assignments through a rebalance. It's easy to read because it's a bit weird. Do any setup work here? And this is an asynchronous function, by the way. Do any setup work here? So the setup work can be asynchronous. And then we'll get the processing function, which I actually have to think about a little bit about how to do this, but basically, let's just say it returns a function for now. We can deal with pipelines of functions later. It returns a function that takes a message and takes the processing context, and it returns, and that's it. Here you do. That reminds me. Basic store support. So in very basic terms, this is the thing. This is the thing I want to achieve, and this is sort of what we've got going at the moment. Where instead of having to deal with rebalance of consumers manually, you can basically say, okay, these are these events. This is how I want to process these events. This is what I'm going to go do to them. And through the processing context and through the assignment context, which are ever so slightly different in some ways, and sort of need to figure out what actually, if there's actually a use to having both of them. But this is going to have stuff on it like context.commit or context.send for produce a new message. So, you know, as I think about this, I'm going to start adding basic message parsing. So say that I would want to count. That's such a bit of a lame example, but the example I'm going to use is counting the amount of messages. It's counting the amount of locations that I'm getting here. So you're going to probably get something like location is parse the location from this message value, and then we're going to say I mean, this is not how this should work, but let's just do this in memory for a second. Counts per message. Counts per time window. I'm gonna window them with time. Gonna get like window Probably not use the word time. Win. Sure. Microsoft can do it, I can do it. Counts per time window. No, that goes later. Take the location, timestamp or something, and I'm gonna set get window for that, and then we're gonna take the existing window and say, okay, counts per time window, something like that, okay, for that window, and otherwise it's 0. And then we're gonna say, do something very nasty per time window is existing count plus 1. All right. Now, in very, very, very basic idea, this is what you should be able to do. For example, tag to Postgres, replicate store from us. You can do all those kind of things, and say that every single time that this count gets updated, we also want to write it. So we can basically say existing count, and then say new count, existing count, and I'm gonna put that into the new count here. Commit. I don't want to do that yet. I want to say, okay, location counts, new count. This is extremely basic and probably wouldn't work 100% like this, but this is this is basically the type of API we want to implement, and the thing that we've been working on, making all of this work. When it does work, and a way more advanced version of this does actually work for us, writing new tasks, as I call them, is a lot simpler. So basically writing background jobs, taking just a stream of something, thinking about the high level operations that you want to do to it. So in this case, count every single event that comes in, but it can also be merges of stuff, or geospatial stuff. It doesn't really matter. Whatever kind of process you want to... Oh, should also be asynchronous. Whatever you want to do to basically simply transform this data, because in the end, that's what all that stream processing is. It's taking it's taking events. Or it's basically taking event and turning that into new events to be written. And whether you write them back to Kafka to a new topic, or whether you write them to Postgres or stuff, it doesn't really matter. But it's basically a data transformation problem, which reminds me. Basic scheduling, windowing. So there's a whole there's a whole bunch of different stream processing techniques you can use, but the idea is that this processor API will at least allow you to apply all these basic processing techniques without having to directly wrestle with the consumer, without directly having to subscribe and deal with rebalances and deal with what you do on error and like all those kind of things. Like as much as we can take away, the better. And the end game of this is that once you have a processor API like this, you can actually build the higher level APIs that you see from the Kafka Streams library. You can build those on top, because that's is actually how all that stuff is implemented in the actual Kafka Streams API. It's all They're all implementations of different type of process, different types of processors, just like these. Now the Java API looks very different. It definitely looks very, 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 very different. It looks a lot more verbose with lots of types here and everywhere, which I guess this is TypeScript, so maybe I should be doing. But basically, so this is what we're trying to do. Now, I have about 15 more minutes and a bunch of tea left. So, in order to get something done, I want to get this main bit working, and maybe the very, very basic bit of task process. So actually, just very simply in the task class or the task instance, track these different values that you pass, so that at some point, because actually what you need to do after you've done all this, and you can basically say task start, and that's actually when it starts processing. So the idea is that you can write all this logic first, even test your logic using something that we've been calling task inject, which for anyone who's used Happy before must look extremely familiar, because they have something called like server inject. But task inject is basically for testing, so that you can run tests through this entire pipeline without actually starting up a task. So without actually connecting to a Kafka cluster, which I'm going to have to write down, because obviously this is just something that I've taken for granted, but I should have probably talked about before. Basic, simple logic text. Testing of processing logic. Now, there's a lot to say for, actually running against Kafka as well, but it's been so extremely useful to just say, okay, like to actually be able to just test this logic that I've just written here. Because if you look at it, if we can simulate an assignment coming in and injecting a message that is, a good mocked message, you should actually be able to test this logic. And because what messages look like is actually fairly well defined, and what assignments look like is actually fairly well defined, we can actually mock these well enough for this to work. In the same way that the Happy framework can mock HTTP requests well enough for it to work, because HTTP requests have been the same for a long time, or don't change crazy amounts. All right. So let's at the very least stop clicking erratically and see if we can make this work. So existing sources. I could make a really nice I could make a hash table here, but I'm just not going to, because if something works as an array, then I'd rather keep it that way. Topic name, wait, that's not gonna work, is it? Okay, so we look if this source already exists. If it does, I'll just return that. Sweet. And if not, we'll create a new source. I wonder how I do that in TypeScript, but maybe I should just not care. Maybe I should just not care. Yeah, I don't think so. Or can we do something like, probably something like this, shouldn't we? I think that's right. If not, we can change it. Is this still running? Oh, it is. Whoops. We're back. Sweet. So, I am in a new desk, and some Sherlock Holmes thought it was a great idea to put the one and only power socket that this office has right where your feet go under the desk. So I just kicked the power plug, and it left the socket. It's so big, it's hard to read. But I guess if it's smaller, it's hard to read for you guys. So, can we just what can we do to just recompile this? Compiler error. Expected 1 argument but got 0. Very true. Task stores without an argument is not expected. It's okay. To that should throw. Don't know what it throws yet, but it should throw. I don't think it does throw actually at the moment. Okay, so I wonder how you deal with this in TypeScript, because I want this package to be consumed in JavaScript, and in JavaScript we're gonna have to throw at runtime, because it's not gonna tell you any of this. Sure, we'll just not think about it for now. Can we say skip? Something like this? No, because I'm thinking in JavaScript ways, so we can't even have this as code. Cool. Because it won't compile as TypeScript. Sweet. Or am I just completely looking at the wrong thing? I don't think I am. All right, new. You need to overload the method and throw from that. Cool. I'm just gonna write that here, because I don't know what that means. I mean, I have a vague idea of what that means, but I don't really, not in that TypeScript. TypeScript, yay. Learning. I need to learn what TypeScript, what that does in JavaScript. But anyways, it's something I do want to cover in the end, because just means you create two called the same thing, but one receiving no arguments. Yeah, obviously. Well, see, this is how I'm not used to type languages. Like, I come from a PHP world 10 years ago. Yeah, so instead of I come from a PHP world 10 years ago and then did lots of JavaScript. I've always done little bits with type languages here and there, but never really something. So, okay, you know what? I'm going to learn something today because we're not really finishing anything. Okay, overloading. TypeScript. Method overloading. So instead of an if statement in the method, you have two methods. So basically, does that mean something like? Okay, I'm just gonna have to actually read it. Illustrating the problem. Yeah, okay, of course. All right, I think I have a good idea of what to do there. I'm just not gonna do it now. As you can tell, I'm still trying to figure out how to fit stuff in a single streaming thing and actually get something done. But okay, and this is where so we're just gonna continue with this for a second, but this is where the coverage comes in. Because as you can see, it tells me that there's a coverage for 90% of the lines, 75% of the functions, 50% of the branches. So there's an entire branch we're not testing, which is problematic. Like, that means because maybe I haven't tested. So it basically shows me that I haven't tested what happens when I use an existing source. So it makes it a lot easier to spot bugs or to realize that you haven't gone down a certain branch. And sometimes even you do try to write the code that goes down that branch, but for some reason it doesn't. And you're thinking you're going down that branch. You're thinking you've covered that and you've covered that, but you haven't actually. And so. Same source is task, source, test topic. So now we should see an increase at least on covered lines, task.ts. See, that's what I'm talking about. I should be getting the same source now, I think. But it still says only 50% of the branches. I only had 50% of the branches here. So that probably means that I've missed something here. Yes, I have missed something here. I haven't added the new source to the sources. See, so this is exactly why I'm doing the 100% code coverage thing. Like, this is actually, come to think of it, this is a classic example of why this is the thing you want to do. Because let's run this now, and it doesn't compile. Great, but argument of type surf is not assignable to of type of never. Cool. This is a type of never, so I guess that's type inference. So, but I can just say sources. Can I say like array source? Or is that a Java thing? It's a thing I can say, it's a thing I can do, and now we have 100% code coverage. So now you can actually see that. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm just going to start committing some stuff. As you can see, I'm using Sublime Merge for it. For everybody still looking for a good client, that's the place you want to go. Add a simple example. And I'm going to say Wait, I'm not gonna stage this yet. On stage. This looks to have done nothing. Set simple document. Can I make this bigger? Window. Font size 18. Guess that worked, sort of, for half of the thing. Documents, document basic goals and requirements. And then I want to say draft implementation of task with task source. Sweet. Well, do I dare do another? I think it's 5 o'clock. I think I'm gonna. It's done so little. That's the only thing. I've done very, very, very little. But I do think I'm gonna call this to an end. Maybe what I'll do is off screen here for a second, create a new GitHub repo where I'm gonna put all of this stuff so that people can at least look at it. Notifications, queue, new repository. I had a description here somewhere. I'm not gonna show you my internal GitHub thing. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen. No, it's mostly because there's lots of customer stuff in there. Luckily, all my customers are happy for us to use GitHub. Initialize no, I don't want to do that. Frolic. How do I exit? Exit. Sweet. I think this is how I do it. All right. And then I always have to look up package repository. How you add the repository to the npm package, because obviously that's something you do how often? Not very often. Sweet. Copying, pasting, my way to glory. Author. Type git, sure. They actually want the git URL. Frolic git. Fine. I probably should set up a formatter as well, actually, but I'm already losing so much time to stuff that isn't actually any code, so repository. Sweet, don't know what that was, gonna discard that. Push origin master. Okay, now we can find the code and I'll paste it in the chat. Now, this is where you can find the loveliness. I guess that syntax didn't completely work. That was the thing. GitHub, Markdown, checkbox. About task lists. They need to have a space. We'll add space. Oh wait, look, this is, oh man. Yes. So for the people who are not familiar with Sublime Merge, I think most people are familiar with Sublime Text, which I still prefer over VS Code or over Atom and stuff. Mostly because especially when Atom started to become popular, I was still running a MacBook Air with 8 gigs of RAM, 4 gigs of RAM. I think it was actually 4 gigs of RAM. I was running with 4 gigs of RAM, so running running Atom was just dirt slow. While Sublime is just Sublime, really. It's fast, even on slower older machines like that. And Sublime 3 is also really great with all the plugins. You get all the TypeScript support or whatever support that you need. Anyway, if you like Sublime Text, have a look at Sublime Merge, because that is basically the same thing, but then for Git. So I've switched between clients, UIs, and just the command line 100 times between Git. And for some reason, I never wanted to stick with the command line because it's just those commit commands are just too verbose or just not easy enough to like just stage up a couple of different changes and just not do. So that's painful. But at the same time, a lot of these UIs try to do way too much, or like I've used source tree, but then Atlassian started asking for you to sign in with an Atlassian account for Git. Like, it doesn't need it. Like, it's just stupid. And Gitkraken was, don't want to throw shade on anything. I've used Gitkraken for a long time. It was actually nice. All their pull request integrations with GitHub were really good. But it was just a bit slow and sometimes crashed and I had to restart it. Just sort of what you would expect from an Electron app. Like, you can make an Electron app really good, but most of the time you're gonna end up with small little things like that. Sublime Merge is just so fast, and just like Sublime Text, you've got this fast command thing, this fast command menu with Command P, and basically all of the normal Git commands are there. But they're auto-completed, they're fast, so you can like create a branch and then or push something or pull. It's just let's look at Kafka.js. Let's pull the losses, because I know there's some Kafka.js people watching. Kafka.js, here we go. I had to get used to how they show this a little bit, but let's just say check out branch master. We're already on master. Let's pull master. Sure. See, you get all these options that are just being shown, which is really nice. And let's push this to my own version of master on my own fork in case I need to make changes to stuff. That's it. I don't know. Go try it. It's worth. These are really great people, and they are worth supporting. At least trying. I think it's free to try, and you can buy a license at some point, or hit the thank you for using, please buy a license thing, and just keep hitting cancel for 2 years in a row, which I did one time when I lost my license, and maybe only just bought a new license because I started streaming. But that's a little secret for between you and me, and for me and the 6 people that are watching. All right, that's it for today. That's it for now. I kind of liked doing this. It took some more time than I thought it would, but obviously I'm trying so many new things at once that it's not gonna fly. I might work a little bit on this stuff in the background when I have some time for it. But I'm thinking I'm gonna do this same stream again at least next week. Maybe I have some time for it tomorrow, but at least I'm gonna give it a go next week. And probably, Tommy, you're the reason why, because you actually decided to say something in chat, which makes me feel that at least somebody was listening and watching, which was good. All right. Should we do it all fancy pants and go back to the talking thing? See, even made designery things. It's a gradient. Woo. All right. Well, take care, world, and I'll see you next time.